Hello and welcome. You're watching NewsX and I am Meenakshi Upreti. Obesity, a problem which is very common in today's time and age, a problem we all know about. What do you do when you are overweight? Most of you try lifestyle changes, perhaps working out and changing your diet regime. But what happens when none of it is helping you? When all the efforts which you are putting in seem to be going in vain? Well, there is one way out, something known as bariatric surgery. What is it? Do we need to know about it in today's time and age? The significance of the same? Does it have any side effects? I'm sure you all have a lot of questions regarding the same in your minds. And to clarify all of this, I have a panel of experts and I'll be introducing them very shortly. But also with me is a person who's going to give a first-hand testimonial of what they went through when they underwent the surgery. Without much ado, it's best that I open up the panel. I'm joined by Dr. Atul Peters. He is the Director of Bariatric Minimal Access and General Surgery at the Max Super Speciality Hospital. Welcome, sir. Also joining us is Dr. Anuradha Kapoor. She is a Senior Director and also the Head of Unit of the Obstetrics and Gynecology Department, also at the Max Super Speciality Hospital in Saket. And I'm joined also by Anisha Sharma. She had opted for bariatric surgery as a treatment option. Why she opted for the same, what this surgery is all about, what we need to know about it. Let's open it all up for discussion. I'm going to start first of all with someone who can give us a first-hand account of really what this surgery is about, what they went through, why they needed it to begin with. Anisha, I'm going to start with you first. How did obesity and health-related issues, affect your life, and what was the tipping point? Why did you seek a treatment like this?
Sure. So I got my surgery in 2016. I was 27 back then, and it as in I've always had like childhood obesity. Like I've been a pretty healthy plump kid all my life, and the weight just went on and on. It never stopped. I was 145 kgs when like the first time I went ahead and consulted for surgery. I was about 110 kgs, but then I just took it very lightly that I probably don't need it right now, as in I can work out, I can go to the gym and everything. I ended up being 145 kgs. There came a point where I walk, like walking from my bed to the restroom was a task. I would start panting. I would have acid refluxes. Basically, I had a very unhealthy lifestyle. And honestly speaking, the quality of life was not that great. I couldn't think about taking like a trip where I have to maybe as in go on a hike, or maybe just go for sightseeing. And considering that I like traveling fairly, it was just not right to not be able to do what I want to do. So that's where as in I realized as in I need some help, because going to the gym was also not an option, because I was not able I would start panting, I would start having breathing issues the moment I would jump on the treadmill. So hence that's when I realized I need some help.
And when you opted for the surgery, what changed for you? Help us also understand that.
So honestly speaking, I went into the operation theater at 1:45. I came out 1:45. Nothing had changed the same day. As in, yes, you think miracles happen overnight. That does not happen. But of course, as in the first few months, I went ahead and as in I had a very restricted diet. I started with a liquid diet, then a semi-solid, and so on. Right. It took me about a month to reach solid food. But as in the first 20 days is when I saw a drastic dip in my weight, where I went from 145 to I think somewhere close to 120. I saw an instant dip of 20 kgs, and then there on after it was as in I was losing on an average of 2 to 3 kgs per month. And as in life has changed after that. As in now I'm definitely more active. As in I used to think I was a lazy person. I still am a little lazy, but then of course, as in I'm much more active in terms of as in moving things around, going here and there. And yeah, Like, I recently got married. I planned my entire wedding on my own. It could not have been possible at 145 kgs for sure.
So it's certainly a very, very motivating story, and it's a huge transformation, isn't it? Dr. Atul Peters, if you could just come in here, help us understand really what are the treatments for obesity and how does bariatric surgery really fit in? How does it help a patient? How does it, help someone lose weight, live a better, healthier lifestyle, as Anisha was just telling us all about?
Yeah, so when we talk about overweight or obesity, number one, we need to classify what does overweight mean and what does obesity mean. So the easiest and the simplest way that a common man can know whether they are overweight or obese is to take out their BMI, also called the body mass index. You got a number of calculators on the Google, you could use that. Otherwise, a simple formula is take your weight in kgs and divide it by your height in meters square. So weight divided by height in meters into height in meters. That you will have your BMI, or you could use any of the Google calculators. And once you have a BMI of more than 22.5, we know that you are overweight. So you need to correct yourself with some amount of diet regimen, some amount of exercise, because that is the time where you should be cautious about your eating habits and your physical activity. But once you cross a BMI of 27.5, you enter into a disease format called obesity, because WHO now classifies obesity as a disease. So once you're more than 27.5, right, you are class 1 obese, and once you're more than 32.5, you're class 2, and more than 37.5, class 3. So when you are just overweight or class 1, the treatment options vary from a dietary modification, a good healthy lifestyle, some amount of exercise, and rarely we do add a few drugs which can help you curb some part of your appetite, some part of your satiety. That point of time, the other options beyond a dietary modification and an exercise regime, there is something called an intragastric balloon, wherein we can help you by aiding some amount of weight loss, wherein we do an endoscopy, place a small silicone balloon which is inside your tummy. So because it is a foreign body in your tummy, which is slightly filled with water, you don't feel so much hungry. The gastric emptying, which basically means the food going down to your intestine, is delayed, and thereby you can lose weight. So a target, what you could lose is something between 10-15 kgs. This is a temporary way because you need to remove the balloon after 6 months or maximum 1 year. And this is another temporary way of giving you that extra kick or initiate the weight loss program, right? But once you are a class 2 obese and you have associated problems like diabetes, hypertension, PCOD, infertility, which probably Dr. Anuradha would be talking more about, right? Or dyslipidemia, that is the time when bariatric surgery remains the main stay of treatment. So anyone who has a class 2 or class 3 obesity with associated comorbidities, or anyone who has a more than class 3 obesity, that means a BMI of more than 37 or even 35 now, which is the latest recommendation, without any comorbidities, are the people who should get, or we should start thinking about bariatric surgery. But the important part is bariatric surgery is a tool to reach to your destination. It's a tool to achieve your goals. It is not a magical wand or a pill like she clearly spoke about, right? That just because you got a surgery done doesn't mean that you don't need any dietary modification, you don't need behavioral therapy, you don't want to be disciplined. So that's not true. It is a tool which needs good amount of I won't say restricted lifestyle, but I would say a disciplined lifestyle. So that is important.
I think it's right. It's a very significant point which you raise when you say that it's not a magic wand. It's a much longer process. Even post the surgery, one needs to, of course, make lifestyle changes. Dr. Anuradha Kapoor, if you could just come in here and just take this conversation forward. Since we're speaking of obesity, also help us understand why we need to be so wary of it. There can be, as Dr. Peters was also saying, a lot of comorbidities linked to obesity, and we don't seem to take it very seriously. We think we'll start our diet journey or a weight loss journey from tomorrow, day after. Help us understand, if the BMI is much above the recommended level, as Dr. Peters was elucidating on, why it should be a primary concern for us.
Yeah, thank you for the question. So obesity is a disease which can cause a lot of problems in women. It can cause abnormal uterine bleeding because what happens is in the fat, the conversion will be from testosterone or from other hormones to estrogen. So there will be unopposed estrogen, which will cause irregular bleeding. There can be polycystic ovarian syndrome, There can be infertility. I will tell you more about why it causes infertility. Obesity causes infertility in a lot of ways. It is obviously, first of all, anovulation. That means you don't ovulate every month because the androgens are high. If you have more fat in your body, if your BMI is high, then you will have more androgens, or the male hormone, right? So that will cause anovulation. That means every woman ovulates every month. This will not happen in people who are obese. So that is one factor which will cause infertility. Also, because there is impaired endometrial receptivity. That means obesity causes a lot of problems like inflammatory. It causes inflammatory processes. It causes neuroendocrine. It changes the hypothalamic pituitary axis for us also. So there'll be anovulation, there'll be endometrial receptivity problems, and even if the egg is formed, it will be of a poor quality. So all this will cause impaired fertility. It will also cause, because there is excess estrogen, there is no progesterone, so you will have abnormal uterine bleeding, and you have polycystic ovarian syndrome, in which you have acne, facial hair, menstrual irregularities, which can also lead to metabolic syndrome, like a metabolic syndrome which can increase the chances of cardiovascular risks and strokes. So metabolic syndrome is, supposing, that means you have dyslipidemia, you have the bad hormones, bad triglycerides going up, you can have hypertension, you can have diabetes type 2, so, and you have an abnormal waist circumference. All this is included in the metabolic syndrome. So your chances of metabolic syndrome also increase. So in women, if you can have PCOS, you can have infertility, you have abnormal uterine bleeding. And if you have unopposed estrogen for a long time, that means if patients don't get periods in about every 6 to 8 weeks, then there is more unopposed estrogen, which can increase the chances of endometrial cancer in the 50s and 60s. So you have to understand the significance of obesity. It is just not a cosmetic thing. It can cause a lot of diseases.
Yeah.
And the most important thing also is that the offspring of a baby who's born to an obese mother will also have childhood obesity, and that child is also more prone to developing diabetes later on. That means fetal programming is done in utero. So you have to the mothers have to understand that they have to be optimal weight before they start a pregnancy. And supposing they do get pregnant, then if she's obese, then she's going to have a lot of pregnancy complications, like the chances of miscarriage increase, chances of stillbirths increase, chances of gestational diabetes increase, chances of preeclampsia increase, more chances of having a cesarean. So that means obesity is linked to so many diseases in women. So we have to optimize our weight.
Very important and very significant. And I think that's the point I wanted also to highlight on, that it's not just a cosmetic thing. It's something which affects your overall well-being and health. Anisha, if you could come in here before I go back to Dr. Peters, I think it's at a very significant point that this surgery is not a magic wand, something which you'd also touched upon. Help us understand the lifestyle changes perhaps which you had to make post the surgery, because that's also very important for our viewers to know.
Yeah, so in terms of the lifestyle change, I think it sort of disciplined me to a very good extent, as in the first 3 years, as in I can't remember a time when I finished more than like a bowl full of dal or bowl full of rice, right? As in I had these huge plates in the house, like a normal dinner plate. All of them got replaced by quarter plates because my eating, as in this type of surgery I got done, it basically as in I was eating smaller meals, smaller portions. So the first 2 years, of course, I absolutely stuck to what Dr. Peters and what the team told me to as in follow, and then slowly and steadily, of course, I still do enjoy, I still do indulge into things like, pizza is one of my favorites. I might have a slice of pizza, but then I stop at a slice rather than finishing the entire pizza, like a large or a medium pizza. So yeah, and I still do indulge into things that I like. I don't stop myself from them, but then at the same time, it's limited, it's portioned, and as in it's healthier, basically.
Fair enough. Limited portion and healthier food is what you really need. Dr. Peters, if you could come in here and help us understand post-surgery compliance, the instruction which patients need to know and follow post-surgery.
When I say about, or when I talk about weight loss to my patient, I always tell them, if they enter into a program of weight loss, surgery is only 20% of the whole journey. 80% is a regular follow-up with the bariatric nutritionist and the dietitian, and of course the surgeon too. They need to comply with the basic understanding of the test to see if there are any nutritional deficiency that they develop. So a blood work is done at 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, 12 months, and every year for the next 10 years. So we say that follow-up for 10 years is a very good idea, and the patient should adhere to it. In terms of dietary restriction, there are no real restriction. However, there are some S that I always say: smoking, sugar, soda, straw. These are a few things that it should be avoided, which is not good for your system because they increase the inflammatory response of the body and then can delay the healing. Apart from that, the easy thing to remember is I say a fist of bariatric. So this is 5 things which are important for the patient post-operatively. Number 1, eat small meals, eat frequent meals, chew it very well, eat your proteins first, and eat your multivitamins. So small meals, frequent meals, chew it well, eat your proteins, and eat your multivitamins. So the patients are always counseled and guided to eat their proteins first, because you know what, they have a limited capacity. Once we do a bariatric surgery, the stomach pouch or the stomach tube is a very limited thing. So you would always want to give what is the basic requirement of the patient. And what is the basic building block? It's the protein. So they should always focus on proteins. So for non-vegetarians, they can take egg, they can take meat, they can take fish, they can take poultry. And for vegetarians, they can take dal, they can take curd, they can take yogurt, they can take soya, they can take paneer, and so forth. So they should focus on their proteins, which is important. Along with that, we always encourage the patient to have a healthy routine of some physical activity. Now, just because I like going to the gym doesn't mean that everyone would want to go to the gym. We always tell them, pick up a healthy habit that you're going to be pursuing for the rest of your life, which could be cycling, which could be Zumba, which could be dancing, which could be badminton, squash, any one physical activity that they would be continuing for the rest of their lives. So a healthy eating habit and lifestyle modification in terms of picking up a good physical activity that they can pursue and they can continue for the rest of their life is very, very important. So these are 2 important aspects of post-bariatric counseling, or you could say follow-up.
Right. So post surgery also one needs to be extremely careful. But, Dr. Anuradha Kapoor, I want to ask you, how does one reach this decision that they need a surgery? You rightly emphasized on the complications which one can develop, especially women, PCOS, infertility and other issues. When do you think, or when would you suggest or tell a woman to consider a surgery like this seriously, ma'am?
So supposing it's a case of PCOS, right? She's tried lifestyle management. She's done her diet and exercise and all the medicines that she could take. And despite that, if she's not losing weight, so like Dr. Peters said, if it's class 2, the BMI falls in the class 2 obesity, or if she has any comorbidity like uncontrolled diabetes, or if she's planning a pregnancy and the diabetes is uncontrolled, she can't keep losing years, right? Her fertility years are limited. She has to plan for 37. And if she keeps losing years because her diabetes is getting uncontrolled, then where do we go? That means she cannot plan. So we have to optimize her body weight before that. So if she's not able to do it with lifestyle changes, then she has to approach the bariatric surgeon and get a bariatric surgery done. So the only problem nowadays we're facing is that women are agreeing to bariatric surgery, but the adolescents are also a big group that we're having with PCOS who are very, very obese and fall into class 2, class 3 obesity. So they need a lot more counseling. So, but they also need the bariatric surgery. So it's not that only for women who are in the reproductive age years, even adolescents will need that, because it is causing a lot of metabolic syndrome in the adolescents. You're having a lot of diabetes, hypertension, and acne and facial hair, irregular periods, which are just not responding to lifestyle management and drugs. So then they should choose the bariatric surgery as an option.
Okay, but what's the criteria, Dr. Peters? Can just about anyone get the surgery done? Is there any criteria for someone who approaches you and perhaps wants to opt for a surgery like this?
Yeah, so there are criteria laid down by different organizations in the world, which could be an AD, which is American Diabetic Association, IFSO, which is International Federation. We have our own OSI, which is Obesity Study Society of India. So the typical is any patient who has class 2 obesity, which is more than 32 BMI or more, associated with diabetes or metabolic syndrome, should undergo the surgery. Or any patient with class 3 obesity, that means a BMI of more than 37 and without any comorbidity. So anyone who doesn't even have diabetes, hypertension, or are still on the borderline of any of these disorders can opt for it. So class 3 without associated comorbidities, and class 2, which is BMI 32 and or more with associated comorbidities, are the people on whom we suggest bariatric surgery.
All right. So there is, of course, a certain criteria and health parameters which need to be taken into consideration before one opts for a surgery like this. But Anisha, once the surgery is done, help us understand how has your life changed. Just touched upon it very lightly as to how, of course, you're aesthetically, at least weight wise, way lighter. But going beyond really the optics and the aesthetics of it, how has it changed the quality of your life, first of all?
Quality of my life has definitely changed. So, like one simple example, when I entered the pool, possibly after I was 16. So, after 10 years, I entered the pool and I started swimming again. And, as in initially, of course, it was very difficult because as in I couldn't complete more than 2 or 3 laps, but then as more laps every day. I picked up cycling in the lockdown, and apart from that, even going to work and other things that I go and do now, day-to-day life is fantastic, running around and being more active. And of course, as in dress is fit now, so I can just walk into a mall and just pick up whatever I want. So yeah.
Very interesting point. And it's, as you very rightly said, it's about all the physical activity which you have been able to incorporate, leading a better, healthier lifestyle, not just for yourself, but of course for the people and the loved ones around you. So, Dr. Kapoor, you were talking about, PCOS and other issues which women develop and how this surgery can help them. We were talking about myths and busting myths around it. Does this surgery at all affect a woman's fertility? Does it affect, her reproduction in any way? Because there are a lot of myths around these surgeries, and it's best that we sort of declutter and simplify it for those watching this show.
Sure. So it does help in a lot of ways. So that means it's been studied scientifically that after PCOS, after bariatric surgery, patients resume their menstrual activity very soon. Within 3 months, their periods become regular because there's a lot of weight loss. And this is a scientific proven fact that if you have 5 to 10% of weight loss, then your periods can become regular in PCOS. They start ovulating well. So that means infertilities and the quality of the egg also improves. So fertility improves a lot after bariatric surgery. And we've also seen a lot of spontaneous conceptions post-bariatric surgery, though we tell mothers to wait for 12 months at least before planning a pregnancy after, so that all her nutritional deficiencies are taken care of, right? And the only myth, so that means it helps in every way, your hyperandrogenism, the hirsutism, the menstrual cycles, the ovulation, the fertility, everything is helped. And even you do conceive well and early. The only thing is that you have to take care of the nutritional deficiencies during pregnancy. So managing pregnancies after bariatric surgery is also a special area. It's a niche area. So you have to see that they plan after 12 months and that their vitamin deficiencies are taken care of. So it's a consult between the obstetrician, dietitian, and the bariatric surgeon. And so then we take care of the pregnancies. But otherwise, it really helps. For patients who are not responding to lifestyle management and pharmacological management, this is an option, a very good option.
Certainly, it is an option for those who are not able to manage their weight with their lifestyle, and it does not affect really, your health in any way, especially your reproduction, which is what one of the biggest myths was all about. Dr. Peters, I was just discussing myths around bariatric surgery with Dr. Anuradha Kapoor. She told us about how it doesn't affect reproduction or reproductive organs of any woman. Help us understand, first of all, what these myths are and clarify really what is true out of all these rumors, the myths which always surround such surgeries.
So number one myth is, so I will try to think about the patient's questions that they usually ask. The commonest question is, it is very dangerous, right? And I can tell you that it is not that dangerous, and the risk factors are almost equivalent to doing like a hysterectomy, of which has a risk factor of about 0.4 to 0.8%. That is number one. Number two is, the commonest thing is, once surgery is done, I can eat and drink everything. Or the second thing is, once surgery is done, I can't eat anything or drink anything. So both are myth. It's not that once your surgery is done, you can eat and drink everything. Yes, you have a disciplined lifestyle, right? So you want to eat a cake, yes, go ahead, but have a smaller piece on occasions. You should not have cake every day, right? You cannot have a fried food. Ideally, no. However, in one odd situation wherein you don't have anything else and you want to have a small portion of it, it's perfectly okay. Third thing is, once I get surgery, especially for young ladies, right? They always come up with the question. The mother and the parents are always concerned about fertility issues, and they always say, she's a very small child. Would you think she'll be able to get pregnancy or marriage? So I always tell them, you know what? Number one, in an obese child or an obese adolescent, getting a life partner itself is difficult. Number one. Number two, getting a physical relationship with your partner becomes difficult. Number three, as Dr. Another clearly said, you usually have an ovulatory cycle. So even though you're bleeding, you're not producing eggs. So fertility becomes very less, right? Fourthly, even if you conceive, the chances of continuation of pregnancy are low. And fourthly, all the complication in terms of eclampsia, preeclampsia increases when you're obese. So all these factors become a very controlled factors once you get surgery done. So it is not that it becomes dangerous. On the contrary, it is beneficial for the young ladies to get surgery and then plan their marital life. So this is the other myth. One more myth is that, there's a lot of hair fall and loose skin post-surgery. I always tell them, the body takes hair as an appendage. Hair is not an important part of your body in terms of doing a very important function, right? So if you're not taking a good diet of proteins and multivitamins, the body will shut down the supply to your hair. So the first thing is you can start having a temporary hair fall. And that is the reason, again, the importance of a follow-up, a regular follow-up. And if you remember, I said 5 things. The last thing I said, take your multivitamins and your proteins. So if you take an adequate amount of proteins and multivitamins, which are required for your body, you usually do not get hair fall. It also, some people also ask that, would they be able to take a normal physical activity? For example, can they go to the gym? Can they take weightlifting? Can they take horse riding? And I always tell them, yes, the chances of that increases tremendously, because then you are healthy, your joints are healthy, your bones are healthy, you get a good muscle mass. So it is important for them. Fourthly, some people ask me, I'm a diabetic. Is it safe to get a surgery in diabetes? Because, there is delayed healing. And I always tell them, this surgery is made for obese and diabetes. So the surgery is made for these type of people, right? So delayed healing doesn't happen. And it also corrects your diabetes. So we have close to about 70 to 80% of resolution of diabetes in patients who are diabetic. So it is not that diabetic people cannot undergo surgery, because this is made for them. So they have a better resolution of diabetes. They have a better control of diabetes. Fourthly, as Dr. Another said, obesity increases the chance of cancer in individuals, right? Once you cross a BMI of 40, the chances of getting a breast cancer, uterine cancer, cervical cancer in ladies, and prostatic cancer, gastric cancer, and colon cancer, which is the intestinal cancer, increases. So once you lose weight, the chances of cancer again goes back, right? So you can have a more healthy life, and the risk factor decreases. Fourthly, people say, I have in older people, I have a stent in my heart. Do you think this surgery is safe? Yes, because you got a stent in your heart, that means basically you got a stent because of disease of the blood vessels of the heart. And now if you're obese, you are continuously insulting even the stent. So once you get a surgery done, it becomes better. The impact on the heart is good. You are better off because the workload on the heart is better. The workload on the kidney is better. So you actually get a better improvement in the functions of these organs, which are very, very important. So these are the basic things that people come and they ask me.
And it was a very, very elaborate explanation also, sir, all these myths, and then why don't we go and hear it from the horse's mouth? Anisha, Dr. Peters mentioned a lot of these myths. Now, why don't you also help us understand what has been your personal experience like? Did you experience any side effects? Did you experience, hair fall, etc., which Dr. Peters just spoken about? Anisha, you're on mute.
Yeah, sorry. Hair fall is something like, as in, I did face initially, like, after the surgery, I did go and face it. There are times, as in when in between I get hair fall, but then that's basically indication that my nutrition is going low. So it, your body speaks to you. So after the surgery, one thing that I've gone ahead and realized is I've started listening to my body. Like, I'm able to understand when my body is speaking to me. Like when I'm eating, the moment I'm full, I get a hiccup, and I know that, like, my body is telling me enough, stop eating now. So, like, as in that's something that has gone ahead and changed. Of course, like, as in terms of side effects, I don't remember any specific or large side effect per se, but then yeah, as in you realize that, as in your body does go ahead and crave for food. And I think mentally I definitely needed a lot of, like, as in family support and everything to go through this, because there have been times when I've cried for food after surgery. But like, as in, yeah, you need to have a very strong support system to go
But it's
ahead
helped you
and
for the better. Your health is better. You look better. So
absolutely,
overall, it's been, of course, a blessing in disguise. And I can
yeah.
understand, of course, the fears which one has before going in for a surgery like this. Dr. Kapoor, how does it help, a woman perhaps, who is either infertile or is having difficulty conceiving? Help us understand in simple layman's term. If a woman has or is facing fertility issues simply because of being obese or, weighing higher than usual or than recommended, how does it affect their fertility, and how will this surgery help them perhaps even conceive?
So this bariatric surgery really helps patients who are not responding to medical management in infertility patients. They say that the return to ovulation is very fast. Within 2-3 months, they start ovulating. Their menstrual cycles become regular. They start losing weight. So obviously they look better, and there's spontaneous ovulation also. So there are a lot of spontaneous pregnancies. But like I told you, we tell them to wait for at least 12 months after bariatric surgery to plan a pregnancy, so that the nutritional deficiencies are all taken care of. And so that myth that this is going to harm their reproductive is wrong. It is going to benefit them. Their fertility will return back to normal. Their periods will become normal. That means the facial hair and the acne and all that the PCOS patients were having will reduce drastically. And this all happens in the first year after bariatric surgery. Within a few months, we've noticed. So it is a very good option for patients who are not responding to lifestyle and to pharmacological treatment.
And Dr. Atul Peters, what would you say to those perhaps, naysayers? They're always who say that, oh, this is just aesthetic. This is just to maintain, a certain body type. What would you say to those today?
So number one, you know what? It's very easy for you and me to define our own standards and say that I believe, you believe, we all believe. We should always believe what science and research has to say. And when WHO recognizes obesity as a disease, then it is a disease, right? Then your and my opinion really doesn't matter, why? Because WHO says it's a disease. That is number one. Number two, initially, even in the US, back in the US, the insurance companies were not recognizing bariatric surgery as a life-changing surgery, because they realized that it is a high-ticket surgery, so people were not really willing to pay, especially the insurance company. In about 10 years now, the insurance company realized, because there was a stress from the WHO and the government, that obesity is a serial killer. It increases chances of diabetes, hypertension, deaths, right? And you know what? People don't understand that obesity is the second largest cause of cancer. Second largest cause of cancer is obesity. So once they realized that obesity is a disease, yes, there were a lot of people say, no, this is not, it is only cosmetic, only to look good. No, it is a disease which attracts several other diseases, which decreases your lifespan. The average lifespan which decreases in a class 3 obese patient is about 15 years. So once we realized that it is a disease, it became slightly easy for us to make people understand. Then about 5-6 years back, the government of India recognized obesity as a disease, right? And they classified obesity as a disease. So not only the government, but also the people who were in government service, like Central Health Government Scheme, Delhi government, army, they all started paying for bariatric surgery. Now, they wouldn't have paid, the government would not pay for a cosmetic surgery. Government will pay only if it's a life-saving surgery. So government started it. And about 2.5 years, we also won a long time, I would say, a debate and argument with insurance companies that obesity is a disease, because WHO and every worldwide it is recognized as a disease. So insurance companies have also now agreed, and they also pay for bariatric. And the reason is because they realize obesity is a disease which attracts more disease, and it's a huge burden on the economic system and the healthcare system. So I think we really won the battle in making people understand.
Since you mentioned the battle with insurance companies, the convincing it took really for people to see the benefits and look beyond the aesthetic part of the surgery, what would you like to say as an expert, perhaps to policymakers today? Is it time that we take obesity more seriously, perhaps mainstream, such surgeries, create awareness around them? Because that's also one of the purpose of a show, a program like this.
So as I said earlier, I'm happy that the government of India have recognized obesity as a disease. And about 8 years back, they started paying their government employees for getting the bariatric surgery done in rightful candidates. And also 3 years back, we won the battle, I would say, from the insurance companies. So I'm happy that people are getting aware. I'm happy that the people sitting on the top understand that obesity is a disease. And awareness, yes, surely is it increasing. And you know what? About 15, 18 years back, when I started doing bariatric, 80% of my population were coming from the US and outside, right? And now it's about 80% are Indians. So awareness has increased. People have realized that obesity is a disease. And people are coming to us for treatment of obesity because they realize that it is attracting a lot of medical problems to them. And awareness surely should be increased more. And you know what? Worldwide, only 2 to 5% of the people who actually need bariatric surgery are being operated, right? So yes, we can spread more awareness through your program, through the channels, through the rightful media, that obesity is a disease, it's a killer, and it can be treated. So bariatric surgery is one of the tools. It is not the only tool. Dietary modification, some amount of drugs, some amount of other procedures, along with bariatric surgery, is a whole armamentarium wherein we can say that we can deal with these patients and give them a better life, a longer life, a healthier life. And a healthier life would mean a healthier society. A healthier society would mean a healthy country too.
Right. Very significant points. Dr. Kapoor, anything you'd like to add to this? Any advice you'd like to give perhaps our viewers who are watching this show?
They should have a healthy life. That means they should do physical exercise every day. WHO recommends 150 minutes of exercise per week. They should have a good nutritious diet, low on foods which have good glycemic index. You have to have low glycemic index foods and go for pharmacological treatment. But if you're not responding to all these and you're still overweight, then please think about bariatric surgery and approach a bariatric surgeon because it is part of our treatment protocol.
Very important and significant point. Anisha, would you recommend, this bariatric surgery to someone else? Because you got it yourself and you're talking about the benefits of it, how your life literally took a 360-degree turn and for the better post the surgery.
Yes, definitely. I always recommend it to it, like, as in, it's a go for me.
Okay.
Do you hear me?
Yes, so there's a slight network issue, but we did get your point. You say that it's a thumbs up from your side and you would recommend it to others. But Dr. Peters, I have another question for you. You say that the surgery is recommended for those who are perhaps obese. But what about those who want to do it for an aesthetic reason? Is that safe? Is it something one should consider or not?
So my outright answer would be no, if they do not fall in the rightful category of getting a bariatric surgery done. So people who are overweight, I refuse, if not at least 1 in 4 patients, right? Because they would want a quick fix solution for their overweight or an early obesity. So they believe that, they can get the surgery and get a quick result and feel happy about it. So a strict no for those type of people who are looking for a quick fix. Surgery is not a quick fix. Surgery is only 20% of the whole game. And it is not recommended for people with class 1 obesity without any comorbidities. So I would warn these people, and also the people who are listening to our show, that surgery is not a quick fix, and it is not recommended for people who are class 1 obese, and it is not recommended for people who are looking for purely aesthetic answers. For those people, dietary modification, behavioral changes, a few drugs, and probably intragastric balloon would be a better choice. People who would want some amount of go or a small amount they want to kill that inertia and get some amount of, a good go ahead or a start, they could probably get for intragastric balloon done rather than surgery.
Interesting point, sir. You said that surgery is just 20% of the game. So what is the rest of it? What is that 80%? Because that's also very important for people to know, because that's something which I think all of you have emphasized on throughout, the length of this conversation, that it isn't just, some miracle wand, a button you press and you immediately shed hundreds of kilos and look your best self.
So I give a very common example to all my patients. So it's like you want to be a pianist, right? You want to be playing the piano very good. The first thing to do is buy a piano, right? So surgery is like buying a piano. You bought a piano, you got the surgery done, but that is just 1/3 of the game, right? The second important thing is learning the notes and having a good teacher who will teach you how to play the piano, which is the regular follow-up with your pediatric nutritionist and the surgeon. We will teach you how to adapt to a better lifestyle. And the third most important part is practicing it yourself. So you need to practice those notes every day for 1.5 hours to be a good pianist. So practicing the same lifestyle that we teach you, or practicing the lifestyle that we guide you with, right? Having a disciplined lifestyle is most important. Any one of these three which is missing, you don't get results. So you can buy a piano, you don't become a pianist. You have a teacher, but you don't have a piano, you don't become a pianist. You have a good piano, you have a good teacher, but still you don't practice, you still don't become a pianist. So having a surgery with a good center, having a good follow with the nutritionist and the bariatric practitioner, and the third, practicing the lifestyle modification that they've been telling you, are the three key points in which you get rightful and good results.
Very interesting points, sir. And as we close the program, I'm just going to take a closing comment from all of you, starting with Dr. Anuradha Kapoor. Ma'am, you spoke very extensively on fertility, how bariatric surgery helps women who are perhaps suffering from obesity. Help us understand what would be your, last word as you sign off. What would you like to tell the viewers, especially women perhaps who are suffering from obesity, from certain comorbidities related to obesity?
So I think the same message, that they should have a healthy lifestyle and they should have good exercise programs. They should have a good nutritional diet and take the help of pharmacological agents to help lose that weight and control their diabetes and hypertension. But if it's not working with this, then please think of bariatric surgery also in your treatment protocol.
Right. And Anisha, I'm sure you said, and before we lost your network there, you did give a thumbs up to bariatric surgery. You said that, you have been able to change your life completely 360 degrees post the surgery. Really, what would you say as we sign off today?
Definitely, I don't change what I said. It's always a thumbs up, and definitely, you need to take that one step towards your healthier lifestyle. Yeah.
Okay, a combination really, not just a surgery, healthier lifestyle, also modifications also needed post the surgery. That's something which you're all emphasizing on. Dr. Peters, last word to you. What would you say really to the viewers, perhaps who are suffering from, similar problems, who are hesitant, who had perhaps a lot of doubts in their minds before considering a surgery like this?
So I would request all my viewers, number one, first, take out your BMI, which can be easily taken out. First, define whether you have a problem or not. And once you know that you have a problem, you could probably one more.
Okay.
So I'll restart. Surely I would request all the viewers to first, and the easy thing is take out their BMI. Number one is define the problem. Unless you define the problem, you don't have a solution to it, right? So first, accept and define your problem, that you're obese or not. Number two, define that the problem needs an attention. And number three is go to a bariatric surgeon and understand the do's and the don'ts, the goods and the bads, and understand the whole surgical process. How does it happen? What are the important steps which have to be followed post-operatively? And once you have defined all these things, talk to the surgeon, understand the nitty-gritties of the surgery. It's not that you come in one day, get a surgery and go back the third day. It is not that. It's a life-changing surgery which needs a lifelong commitment from the patient, from the surgical team. Go to a center which has a whole program. You should also choose a center wherein that there is someone to follow up. There is a bariatric nutritionist, there's a program manager, there is a psychologist, there is a support system which has been doing it, and someone who's been doing it for years together. So it's important to choose a good center. But number one is define the problem and address the problem.
Very, very riveting conversation, to say the least, an eye-opener really. Far as bariatric surgery is concerned, very little is known around it and about it. Obesity, a problem which a large part of our population is suffering from. If you do fall in this category, as described by the learned doctors in the panel, of course, and if lifestyle modifications are not working for you, this surgery is an option certainly to explore. For now, thank you all of you for joining us on this extremely special and interesting conversation.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.